everyone, and welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to be back on PowerTube TV once again. This show, of course, brought to you by TrackTune, and you will see and hear more from them throughout the show today. And also want to acknowledge Ultimate QM, and you'll be hearing more from them as well. We are going to talk about the big three: the Indy 500, the Coke 600, and of course the Monaco Grand Prix that gets it all started with Tyler Dayton a little bit later in the show. Right now, we have a very special guest joining us. His name is Carson Kvapil. Carson is a second-generation racer, and those of you who follow short-track late model racing or even NASCAR or ARCA will know Carson's name. And if you were paying attention over the weekend, Carson had a great run on Friday night at Charlotte. It's good to have him on. Carson, the son of former NASCAR racer Travis Kvapil. Carson, great to have you aboard with us for tonight. And I'm going to start with, tell us a little bit about the run at Charlotte on Friday night.
Yeah, we had a pretty good run, honestly. Our second ARCA race this year with the Pinnacle Race Group, and third that I've done. Learned a lot, really, just from practice. We adjusted on the car quite a bit. We seemed to be pretty free. I think the track was really hot. I think the NASCAR guys were struggling with it too. So we worked on it quite a bit and qualified. I think it was like fourth or so, third, fourth. I think it's third. I thought we had a pretty good car. I felt like we got pretty tuned in for qualifying, just was a little bit off, and rode around in third for the first 10, 15 laps. Then about lap 20, we took the lead, and we led the whole race until I think it was about 20 to go. There was a caution for two cars spinning. So from there, I knew it was gonna be trouble. I knew that 18 car was really fast. I knew he had really good speed. He was kind of running us down, but we had a good enough lead. I thought we were gonna have the race if a caution didn't come out. But we pitted for tires and came out fourth. And we were able to get to his bumper once or twice with about 12 to go, I think it was, when we restarted, but just didn't have enough speed there at the end. And the aero was kind of something we couldn't overcome. And just it was a good run overall, right? I mean, we went there, finished second, qualified third, and had a chance to win the race. So I thought that was exactly what we needed to do, and it all worked out pretty good.
Some Xfinity stuff too for Dale Jr., and we'll get to that in due course here. I want to go backwards a little bit. Just tell us real quick, how old were you when you started racing, and what were you racing when you started? Walk us through your early career a bit.
Yeah, I started racing bandoleros out of the Charlotte quarter mile in the front stretch. That was, I think I was 10 years old,
wow.
or just
late.
Turned 10 whenever. Yeah, just turned 10 or so whenever started doing that. And after a few races, my dad got his own car, and we kind of did that till about 2015 or 2016. We got a legend car, and about that time, my brother took over running the bandolero when I got the legend car, and from there, it just took off. Honestly, we went dirt outlaw kart racing out at Millbridge, about from 2014 all the way till I think it was 2020 is when I stopped running there. So had a really long run there. We went through all the classes at Millbridge, and just in the time of doing Millbridge, we got into the late model stuff, and obviously from there it just took off into running ARCA, Xfinity, and everything you see me do nowadays.
I feel like it's been a pretty quick ascension over the last couple of years from running for the Cars Tour Championship, which you've obviously won, I think twice, right? Two-time champion.
Yeah, twice.
And then it seemed like it was a short amount of time. You ran an ARCA race, then you've ended up running a few Xfinity Series races. What's it been like for you to kind of have to ingest all of that in such a short order, and how do you go about doing that? What's been your process for figuring all this stuff out? I know you're in the shop a lot working on the cars.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been tough for sure to adapt. I feel like I've done a lot the last 6 months. I feel like we've just running first time Xfinity, first time at Dover, first time at Darlington. It's just going to Kansas last year, this year going to Charlotte, and it's just, man, it's a lot, and obviously it takes some getting used to, and it's not like the old running the late model for the last 3 years, right? I feel like I'm just learning every weekend, and I feel like there's so much that I'm kind of taking in this year, running all the different stuff that I'm sure has helped. Obviously, going to run Darlington, I feel like going back there at the end of the year is going to help me a bunch. So just having all this experience has helped me, obviously in the Xfinity car and the ARCA car, but I think it also translates back to the late model. And I think if you can drive 10 different race cars and run one race car, which would be the late model full time, I think it still helps you. Just learning different disciplines and being able to transfer it over to what you run every week. But no, working in the shop, I mean, it's something that I guess I'm used to. I work full time with the late model guys, the junior motorsports late model guys, and obviously before that, me and my dad ran a family-owned super late model team. So just being in the shops to me is really important. I feel like it's something that I have to do to succeed or have success, I guess you'd say. I feel like it's just how I was brought up, right? I mean, there's some drivers don't work on the race cars, and some like me work on them every day of their lives. So I mean, there's obviously I don't think there's an advantage to working on them. I mean, I think there is, but obviously you go see people like guys like Kyle Larson and other guys that don't work on the race cars run really good. So for me, at least, it's something that I feel like I have to do and to have success. But either way, it just keeps me busy.
Kyle's an alien, honestly. I think he's an alien from another planet because there aren't too many drivers that can drive the variants of cars that he drives and win in all of them. And after what we saw at Indy this month, so I tend to believe in the old school, which is the more that you work on them, the more you understand how they work, so you can get better feedback and actually suggest changes. Whereas Kyle is just telling somebody what he feels. He can't really suggest what needs to be changed probably as well as you could.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, personally, I feel like it helps to work on the race cars. It's a big deal to me, but I mean, like I said, he doesn't seem to have a problem with it, but like you said, I mean, he's one of the greats, honestly. He's really good no matter what he gets in. And I guess I haven't really thought of it like this, but I mean, I guess if you don't had to think about working on them and don't get stuck to a certain mind of how a car's got to be put together, I guess you can really just worry about the driving part of it. But I don't know. I mean, there's obviously both ways, and both ways succeed, but for me, it's just how I was brought up is to work on them every day, and I understand everything about them. So that's just how I've been raised.
You ran outlaw karts for a while at Millbridge Speedway. I wonder how much of that, in terms of the seat of the pants feel and all of that, how much of that have you been able to translate into either the late model or any of the NASCAR, ARCA, stock car stuff that you've been doing? Yeah,
I mean, I feel like the outlaw karts at Millbridge, they're pretty insane. Or when we ran them, they were really insane. Just so fast and no suspension. So you're basically bolted into a 70 horsepower, less than 500-pound race car with no suspension on a dirt track with a wing. So I mean, those things, I still think they're the hardest thing I've driven, and I'm super happy that I grew up racing those, because I feel like once you run something that feels super fast and is really difficult to drive, it makes everything else a little bit easier, right? So I feel like being able to have that experience has made it to where I jump in the Xfinity car to go to Martinsville the first time, and it's not as big of a deal, you know. I don't know. I mean, there's different ways to look at it, right? But I think that running those outlaw cars were a huge help to me, and I feel like there's so much control you had to have with those things, and you also had to drive them really hard. So I feel like those things were a really good mixture growing up, and I think it's helped me for sure getting in these big cars.
One of the things that amazes me about you, Carson, is I feel like they always called Terry Labonte the Iceman, and I feel like you have so much of that in you, because I watch you. Because I understand that there's the knowledge part about driving a car, but there's also the mental part and the size of the stage, so to speak. And you jumped up into the Xfinity series, and right from the start, in every race that you've run, and I'm not saying you haven't made any driving mistakes, I'm sure you have, but that comes with the territory. But it doesn't seem like the size of the stage and the fact that all of a sudden you're running in the second highest series that NASCAR offers, it just doesn't seem like all of that fazed you. Like you were just driving a race car and doing your thing, just like if you were racing the Cars Tour at Hickory Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just, to me, once you strap in the race car, it's just go do your job, right? How I look at it is if I finish second, I'm pretty bummed out. I feel like I go to the racetrack to do my job, and my job is to win. So anything less than that's kind of a disappointment, I guess you'd say. But I mean, obviously out of the car and throughout the week and stuff, it's to me, it's a little more stressful, and just not being in it every week, right? Just jumping in for my first few races. It's definitely a lot more spotlight on it, a lot more spotlight on the races, and everyone's watching, I guess you'd say. And that's different for sure. I mean, the late model stuff's a pretty big deal. The Cars Tour is a huge series, but it just doesn't have the attention that the Xfinity Series gets. And I mean, it shouldn't, right? I mean, it's local short track racing. So transferring over from that's probably really the biggest thing that's been the difference. Is there's so many more people at the track, so many more names, right? I mean, it takes some getting used to for sure, but I feel like once you get in the race car, you're driving a race car. I mean, you don't think about those things, right? And it just kind of comes out of you. What you need to do, you put it into driving the race car, and don't really worry about all the other things.
So I know that everybody's going to want to know this, so I'm going to ask it. You have raced for Dale Jr. and still are, and you have raced with Dale Jr. So in about 2 minutes, explain what it's like to drive and be associated with Dale Jr. How's your interaction with him, and what's he like as a boss and also a competitor?
Yeah, I mean, it's what you think it is. It's pretty awesome. I mean, just having someone with that much experience, and he's done it all. He's been there, done that, right? So for me, being able to lean on him and in my father as well, being able to have those two guys right there to talk to is a pretty big deal, really. I mean, they have so much experience. So to be able to drive for Dale and to have obviously the popularity behind him is obviously boosted mine for sure. But no, I mean, he's a really good guy. All the guys over at Junior Motorsports, all the guys and girls, are great people. I mean, it's just like a family over there. Everybody, and everybody knows you. So it's an honor, honestly. I feel like I look back 4 years ago, if someone told me I was driving Junior's late model and got a few shots in the Xfinity car, I wouldn't believe them, I guess you'd say. So just being able to get the opportunity to drive the late model is awesome, and to be able to drive for what I think is the best team in the Cars Tour is pretty special. But I mean, racing against him, it's a little nerve-wracking, I guess you'd say. A little more nerve-wracking versus just a normal other competitor. You kind of watch your bumper whenever you get to him, right? You don't want to move the boss, I guess you'd say. And we haven't had any run-ins yet, which is good for me. So it's really enjoyable racing with him. He obviously, like I said, he's been there, done that on everything. So to be able to lean on him, and we go to Wilkesboro for the first time, being able to talk to him in between practices and ask him what his car is doing and what they changed is obviously a help for us. And that's one way that it's better, but it's more so just, it's pretty fun to have him come to the late model races with us and support it and race against us.
I'm sure it is. And he's so authentic and down to earth. It's just awesome to see him and how he is at a short track, because you never know he was any different than you, and just love seeing that. Okay, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we got more with Carson Kvapil as the Tom Baker Show continues right after this.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the Tom Baker Show. This segment being brought to you by Ultimate QM. If you want to get your son or daughter into motorsports, quarter midget racing might be a great way to go. They are safe, they are fun, they are affordable, and they race all over the U.S. You can go local, regional, or national, however serious you want to take it. Ultimate QM is a chassis that is manufactured in Mooresville, North Carolina. It's a family-owned business, and the family between them has multiple championships in late models and, of course, in quarter midgets. Nick Loden has won over 180 quarter midgets in his career, and he is one of the team coaches. So you may want to check out ultimateqm.com if you want to go quarter midget racing in a winning way. We have Carson Kvapil with us on the show and talking about his time with Dale Earnhardt Jr., who he currently is driving for and occasionally racing with. And we've been talking about kind of how you are at the track and how he is at the track. I'm curious how you got started with Junior to begin with, because this seems like a dream come true here. Walk us through the genesis of your relationship with Junior Motorsports and how it all started.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't really say it was I guess, planned event, I guess you'd say. I mean, at that time I was running, it was into 21. I was running super late models for my dad, and me and him had kind of been racing that for a few years at that point, and we were racing for the championship with Matt Craig, I think it was, and we had won 4 or 5 races that year, and we were having a really strong year, kind of a breakout year, I guess you'd say, and we were leading the points most of the year, and we had really good runs. But at one of the higher car count races we ran, we blew a motor leading the race, and kind of put us in probably a 20-point deficit compared to him, and just we all came down to the last race at South Boston Speedway, and we had to lead a lap, which got us a bonus point, lead all the laps, which got us another bonus point, and win the race. And we also had to not let him lead a lap, or he'd get the championship. So we took the green flag, and we led the field to the green. We got the pole and led lap 1, felt him on our bumper going through 3 and 4, and we got pretty nervous that we were gonna lose the position to him and let him lead a lap. But fortunately, we just had a really good car that day, and we worked really hard at that race. Knew it was going to come down to being perfect, and that's pretty much exactly what we did. We led all 100 laps, 125 laps, whatever it was, and took home the checkered. And I think we beat him by 1 point, or we tied, and I got the tiebreaker because we had most wins. So it was a pretty big I guess time in my career, knowing that we had to do the perfect race to be able to beat him. And at the same time, I think Junior Motorsports, they were looking for a guy to replace Josh Berry going into the next year, knowing that Josh was going full-time Xfinity racing. And I guess at that time, I really wasn't paying attention to it. I was just doing my own deal, running supers with my dad and working all night and just getting to the racetrack. So I really wasn't thinking about all that. But after that championship and that strong season we had, it just kind of all came together. And on a Wednesday leading up to a Friday, Saturday Cars Tour race, my dad got a phone call from LW Miller, and basically was asking, am I available this weekend to go run the Cars Tour race in their late model stock? And obviously going into a Friday, Saturday race with getting that phone call on Wednesday was a pretty big deal to me. And it was pretty nerve-wracking, really, but we were able to go out there. I think we led most of the race, and about 10-20 to go, we lost the lead and fell back to 4th, but it was still a really good run. And I guess gave the crew chief and LW and Dale Jr. All they needed to, I guess, consider me, and we were able to run another race at Florence for the 400 at the end of the year, and we led most of the race. And with about 5 to go, there's a caution, and Ty Majeski barely got by us there for the win. So we had two really strong races, and I guess that kind of solidified their plan for the next year. And they decided to sign me full time for 2022 Cars Tour and some other NASCAR races, and just kind of took off from there into 23 and 24.
So you were telling me that your dad brought you to the shop at one point or to Junior Motorsports to quote unquote sign a paper. You had no idea what you were signing. You just went, and tell us that story.
Yeah, I was. They called me in to sign a paper. Some, you know how the paperwork is. I was just like, whatever. We'll stop working on the super and go sign that. And I had no clue what I was. I thought I was just signing some random paper or something from the Florence race. And I walked in the office, and LW Dale Kelly and Brian, the crew chief, was in there, and I was there to sign my 2022 full-time season contract, and that obviously was threw a big curveball. I wasn't ready for it. I mean, I thought I was just running a few races for them, and they were gonna see what they thought of somebody else, and it was a pretty big deal at that time. I mean, we were running supers with my dad, and it was kind of one of those deals where I thought I was kind of maxed out with what we could do as a team, and to sign that contract was a huge deal. I was a little worried kind of at that time that I felt like I kind of knew what was going to happen. I knew that if I didn't get a deal before long, I was either going to be too old, or we were just not going to do it, right? Just not pursue it. Just go run supers every week and try to win races. But no, that just getting the Junior Motorsports late model contract signed there was a big relief for me. I just felt like I needed to get something, and I just didn't know I would get something that great.
Well, boy, you got something great, and I know that you made the most of it too. And even when you describe those first couple races in Junior Motorsports equipment, I think there are a lot of drivers who would have, and not to take away from the talent they would have, but just again, the perceived pressure of this being more or less an audition. And you just showed up twice at Florence, drove the car, almost won both races. I don't wonder why Junior and the group decided to sign you for the following year. You basically showed them that you could win in their stuff. And of course, you know, 2 championships and a lot of wins. And now you've gone up to Xfinity and just had some great runs. But I have to ask about that too. What was it like the first Xfinity race out of the box? You go and try to run against, you know, the best of the Xfinity series. What was that like for you, that transition?
Yeah, I mean, that transition, obviously, from running the late model stuff with Junior full time, it's just different. I mean, obviously I was super nervous going into it. Just like anybody's first NASCAR race or first Xfinity race, it's pretty nerve wracking, and you feel like they're expecting a really good run out of you, and you have no clue what you're getting into, right? You can't make no promises. You don't know. So going into that race was a pretty big deal. I was pretty nervous. I felt like we prepared really well on the simulator, and felt like I talked to a lot of people about how to run that place with the Xfinity car. And I guess a little bit of the pressure was taken off, and the fact that I'd ran a late model there twice, I think it was. And I guess it just made it a little bit easier, just being able to learn the race car and not have to learn the track. I was able to transfer over a lot of things from the late model, and just made the transition a little bit easier. But at the same time, it's still really, really big to be able to go out there and run an Xfinity car with just having the late model experience. And I felt like as a team, we had a really good car, and I felt like we could have contended for a win. Just the driver messed up a little bit in qualifying, put us a little bit in a hole, but it was a good run overall, and I was happy with it.
Yeah, that's an amazing run, honestly, and you've looked just as strong in your start since then. Tell us what's coming up the rest of the season for you as far as Xfinity and maybe ARCA.
Yeah, next race we're doing in the Xfinity car is Loudon up in New Hampshire. I feel like that one's gonna kind of fit into my experience a little bit better than, I guess you'd say, Darlington or Dover. But after that, I think we're going to Nashville. And to be honest, I don't remember the order, but we got Talladega, Darlington a second time at the end of the year. I feel like I'm missing one. Michigan, okay. Going to Michigan, doing that deal. And I feel like I'm missing more, honestly, Tom. But as far as I know, that's where I'm going. I'd have to look at the schedule. We've been so wide open running the late model and getting prepared for these Xfinity races. Just all kind of been a blur.
I bet it has, and I don't know how you keep it all straight, but you've been doing that sort of multi-car, multi-surface thing for years, so it probably just is, all right, tell me where I'm going and what I'm driving, and I'll be ready when it counts. But you've got a couple of high-speed tracks in there that you're going to be running with Michigan and Talladega. You got to be looking forward to those.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those are two tracks, I guess, that you'd say that I don't really know what I'm doing at, right? I ran a little bit of 1.5 mile stuff in the ARCA car, and so I feel like I've got a pretty good feel for that. But obviously, going to a new track like Michigan is different for sure. I mean, every track takes a little bit different driving style, and that one's just one we'll just have to figure out, right? I'll be able to lean on Dale, my father, and Josh Berry a little bit probably to get some advice from him, but. To be honest with you, Talladega, I really don't know what to expect. I feel like it's just one of those races where we're just going to go do it and not have. You can't really have a plan there, right? You don't know how you're going to be looking like with 20 to go in the race. So I feel like that's going to be something that I'm gonna have to take a few laps to get used to, bump drafting and all that, and not being able to see what's going on in front of you is going to be a little bit different, but. Hopefully I can adapt well, and I'm sure the team will bring a really good car. It's just going to be all about trying to get me up to speed and get me comfortable.
What advice would you give to a younger driver who's watching this, who's trying to maybe not necessarily NASCAR, it could be any top level series, but is coming up the ranks? What advice would you give them about how to go about preparing themselves and kind of doing things from day to day in order to advance?
To be honest, I feel like the biggest thing is you just got to work for it. No matter what, even if you're not working on the race cars, even if you're just driving and you just got to prepare for the races, I feel like it's just, you got to work 110% to have a chance. And the sport's so difficult to get into nowadays. It's not just one of those deals where you go out there and run good and you're going to get a ride. There's more to it. So I feel like if you're working on the race car, you're not working on the race car, you gotta put 110% effort into it. And unfortunately, you kind of got to sacrifice some other things in life to be able to chase it, right? And you never know if your time's going to come or when it's going to come, but if it does, it's really rewarding. And all those hard nights in the shop or late nights focusing on the next racetrack it all pays off when it gets to that point.
Sure. Well, it certainly is for you, and you're making the best of it so far. Tell us, where can we follow you, social media, website, all that good stuff?
Yeah, you can get a hold of me or follow my career on Facebook at Carson Kvapil Racing, Carson Kvapil Racing. On X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. That's Carson_Kvapil. Instagram is at Carson Kvapil. And those are my main three that I'm on.
So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's always fun to have you on. I'm curious, give me one track that you're looking forward to the most of what you got coming up.
Probably the one I'm looking forward to most, honestly, is probably Talladega, just in the fact that it's different. I've never bump drafted per se, and I've never had to, I guess, just push people around the track the whole way. So that's going to be one that I feel like I'm most excited for, just in the fact that I'm going to learn so much about it. And I feel like whenever I go there, back there, or Daytona a second time, I'll just have way more experience and I'll know so much more. But that's probably the main one that I'm looking forward to. I guess you never know how you're going to end up at that place, but hopefully we end up on the good side.
Yeah, that's true. You can go in there and do everything right on your own and then get caught up in somebody else's mess, right? So you just want to go in, have a good, clean race, and be there when it counts.
Yeah, for sure. It's a 50-50. That's kind of how I've been looking at it. It's one of those races where it can go really good or it can go really bad, and you just never know.
It's always fun to have you on, Carson. You've been on the radio show a number of times. It's great to have you on TV, and good luck the rest of the way. I'm sure we'll have you back because you'll win something.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me.
That is Carson Kvapil. We're going to step aside. We'll come back with more of the Tom Baker Show right after this.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join Tracks nationwide on the app today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to be with you on PowerTube TV. As always, as we roll into our third segment of the night, we now welcome Tyler Dayton, our co-host, former champion at Hickory Motor Speedway with all those trophies behind him that he's accumulated over the years of racing various kinds of motor vehicles, and he's now talking about it with us. So we're glad to have you with us again, Tyler. And first of all, let's go in order here. We're going to hit the big three. I want to start with Monaco. I don't feel like there's a ton of stuff to talk about here, but we have a couple of things. First of all, Charles Leclerc, hometown winner, basically his home track, home country. What an amazing thing for Charles to get the win, and congratulations on getting the pick right.
Yes. My second pick. Max didn't end up working out there after a not so good qualifying run, but Charles got it done. Knew he was so due for this. Time and time again, Monaco has beat him up, and I think he was starting to get real low on his confidence, and this is huge for Ferrari in general, but this is huge for him and his confidence.
Yeah, I think it is too. And interestingly enough, it's fun that we just had a new winner in Miami. Okay, and off of Lando Norris's big win, you get Charles Leclerc getting the win at Monaco. Two very different situations, I feel like, and yet similar because Leclerc, now Monaco, generally, I feel like whoever wins qualifying wins the race pretty much, right?
Yeah, qualifying is the race.
There's just not a lot of passing. I mean, and I think you and I talked about this the other day. The cars are just so big that it's just hard.
Yeah,
There's not much room on the course.
There's no room for cars to go almost too wide anywhere on the racetrack. So you kind of just have a 72 lap parade around the racetrack, and it's a shame because I feel like there are moves that everybody wants to make, but there's so much danger and so much unknown in making them that if you miscalculate, it's end of both your days. So
I've seen online a couple of different surveys that kind of went like this. Do you think Monaco should be removed from the F1 schedule, or do you feel like F1 still needs Monaco? So I thought that was worth putting out there because I have an opinion on this. I want to hear yours.
Man, that's a really, really big question.
Do you think it is?
I think F1 needs it's their crown jewel. I think that they need it. I think it's kind of a shame that the way the F1 rules package is now, and the way these cars are made, and the way their size has only increased. Yeah. So it's making it harder and harder and harder for us to have good racing there. I mean, I remember 9-10 years ago, the cars were a little smaller. We had some decent
for sure
Monaco races, but with the new cars, it's just there's no room, and none of the drivers are gonna risk tearing up their race cars for it. So I think F1 does need it, though. They need a crown jewel, and this is it. I don't see it going anywhere.
And it shouldn't, in my opinion. That is a non-question. Like, we shouldn't even be debating it. It is a car issue, and we saw on lap one what happens right on the start. We saw what happens when somebody makes a move that's sort of a bonsai move and tries to pass cars when there's a collection of cars. You saw what Ocon and Gasly and Checo Perez got the worst of it. That was scary with Checo. I mean, I can't believe he walked away from that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, the Checo Magnussen incident was a little more.
That's what I wanted to say. Yeah,
was a little more of a racing deal for me. Looks like Magnussen went for the move. He thought he had a gap. saw the gap, and it looks like Checo kind of moved over as well. They kind of came together and caused that. The Ocon Gasly incident was completely just, and I don't want to say it, but it was kind of idiotic. I mean, we're lap 1 and your teammates, and you're going to drive over the guy in a non-passing zone. That's a little bit harder for me to kind of agree with. The Magnussen Checo incident, as a driver, I could at least see Magnussen's point of view on that deal. It caused a lot of trouble for everybody, but I feel like, maybe it was a little too early.
Yes, that was
but
my
with
point.
no opportunities to pass. Maybe that's what Magnussen felt like. That's the only way that he was going to get another position. So he went for it, and it didn't work out, and he tore up a lot of race cars. I'm glad that everybody was able to walk away from it. But like I said, it's one of those things where he went for a gap, and it closed.
There's talk of the team sitting Ocon down for the next race. Would you?
Man, I think you have to.
Do you?
Honestly, yeah. I don't agree with, the way that F1 and the way that these teams operate, and that's just a no-no. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking 1 lap in, and it's a teammate, and he just kind of, it was never going to work. So I'm just not really sure what was going through his head there. If it was another car, another team, maybe, but it was a teammate. So I'm not sure what the end goal was there for him, other than, maybe he passes his teammate and then he's in front of his teammate for the rest of the race, but he ended up just tearing up both of them. And
it's just, I feel like some of this is just Monaco. And I agree it was an ill-advised move. I don't think I'd sit him down, honestly. I really don't, because I don't feel like, what does that do for Ocon? What do you learn from that? It's like, we're putting you in the corner in timeout for a week. But
I guess it's more like a wrist slap kind of deal,
it's not even a wrist slap. I just feel like it's not productive. It's like if he does it again, I think you just replace him. Like if this becomes a pattern, but I just have a hard time with that, especially because you're saying, well, I can at least see Magnussen's point of view. And I see the same thing with both of those drivers, where you take the passes when you can get them and you just get over anxious, but interesting stuff there. But yeah, generally not a great race. P6 for Max. Just a bad day,
which is where he qualified.
It's pretty much how it finished.
He just stayed there the whole race. I couldn't imagine just sitting in the same spot for the whole race and not moving.
So much of F1 is that, unfortunately. And boy, it was just a tight one all the way through. Okay, then we get to the Indy 500. 345,000 tickets sold. They had 5,000 that were unsold, and ended up during the rain delay, they lifted the ban on the local TV so that the folks in the area could see it.
That's awesome.
I will just make a blanket statement here. I believe that local bans of races like that are as antiquated, honestly, as anything you could think of. Like it's outdated. Get rid of it. Let the locals watch.
Yep.
I just don't. You're selling 300,000 plus tickets. Come on.
Some people can't afford to go. Even if they are local.
Some people can't go,
and they still want to watch. And they still want to watch the race.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense to me as a racetrack.
In all sports, for me, blackouts are dumb. Just lift them. Just put them away. Okay. So first, Kyle Larson was the story, I feel like, of the month of May. His merch was #1 in sales at Indy, according to IndyCar, which blows my mind, honestly. It shows you the magnitude of his fan base. Runs top 10 for most of the race, gets as high as, I think, 6th. Had a shot until he sped on pit road. And what I found ironic is, same thing that you could have happen in NASCAR, bit him at Indy too.
Yep. It's unfortunate. He was having such a strong run, and just tough way for it to end for him. I know that he wanted, that top 10 so bad. I know he was leading laps there for a little bit before it had to cycle out. Because I was sitting at the 600 when they came on the announcement and said that Larson was leading at one point. So everybody kind of blew up in the stands when they found out that he was leading. But it was such a shame for him. I know how bad he wanted it. I know how hard he worked and prepared for that race. And I think he had a really good showing, even with the speeding penalty. I think he proved that given another opportunity, he's going to be better. And I think he will have an opportunity to win.
That's scary. How good he could be next year, how good he was this year. And I say he got as high as sixth. He passed his way to sixth, and as you say, he ended up taking the lead on the pit cycle. So, yes, he did. Obviously, you got to give him credit for that. But, I think next year he's got a good shot at it. We'll talk about the whole NASCAR side of it in a minute. Santino Ferrucci in the Foyt car. I just feel like if he could ever put a whole race together, last year he was within a handful of laps or 10 laps. This year, the last 50 or so, the car just went away. But another great run, and if he could ever get AJ Foyt back to victory lane, that place would explode.
Yeah, I believe he was your pick.
He was
for the 500, and he qualified well, and then he ran good again all day. Probably that last run pushed it too hard. Try to get more out of it than it really had, and the car went away for him, but. It's still, though, impressive, and he's impressive every time that he's run at Indy. So he's going to be like another, how Rinus VeeKay runs when he goes to Indy. He's just
another one.
He's just good when he runs at Indy. So I think Ferrucci's going to be one of those drivers that you'll see winning this race probably very soon.
And I know we're not supposed to be biased, but I just want to see AJ get a win again as an owner before the Lord calls him home. I just want to see that happen. I think he deserves it. Last lap battle, of course, in the last part of the race. Joseph Newgarden and Pato O'Ward. This to me was one for the ages because they were throwing it down like there was nothing they were leaving on the table, right? It was just an all-out slugfest in the closing laps, and I feel like it was one of those, like you watch a tennis match and somebody just gets the last moment, and Newgarden got the last opportunity and made it work and drove right around Pato and took the win. And I'm thrilled for Newgarden. Back-to-back Indy 500s is a dream, but oh gosh, I'm gutted for Pato O'Ward.
Yeah. It's why Indy's so special. These last lap, it seems like every year we get these last lap or these last, 10 lap battles for the win. Sometimes it's between two drivers. Sometimes it's between five drivers, swapping back and forth. So it's so special. And I think that's why it's as big as it is. That when you go to Indy, you're going to see something like this every time. And Joseph and Pato left it all out there. They were either going to come home with the checkered, or they were going to try to wreck for it. So they didn't, but heartbroken for Pato. I know he wants it so bad. He wants to win the Indy 500.
And I think he'll get one.
I think he said that in his interview too. But Joseph, I guess the little bit more experience that he has just came out there, and he was able to make the move and went back to back.
First driver to go back to back since Helio Castroneves back in 2001.
My pick, by the way, didn't really have a great day.
Well, he did in the beginning, kind of faded toward the end, but he was at least in it for a while, and that was good to see. Okay, so we're actually going to step aside. By the way, Indy view count for TV over 5.5 million, peaked at over 6. Up 8% over 23. And I think the Larson effect had something to do with the increased viewer count for sure. We'll talk about the final part of Kyle Larson's day when we come back as we talk NASCAR and the Coke 600. Back with more of the Tom Baker Show right after this.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join Tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the show. We've got Tyler Dayton with us, and we're talking NASCAR. And we got a lot to get through in this segment. So let's start with the Coke 600. And the race itself,
the Coke 300?
Yeah, 350, 373, whatever it was. Look, I think that at least and you were actually at the track. I did not go on Sunday. It was there Friday and Saturday. But I knew when they started that race, I knew there were storms coming. They were coming straight from Indy. And they were about a lap and a half ahead of Larson, and Larson somehow caught up to him. It's amazing how that happens. But they finally hit, and you just kind of knew going in that this felt like a little bit, maybe it was a race to that point, right? You get to the point where it becomes an official race and you're racing to the rain. I thought this was actually a really competitive, very enjoyable to watch race. Ty Gibbs started on the pole, finally, first one. We all thought that was coming sooner or later. He got it at Charlotte, but kind of faded a little bit as the race went on and just became one of the cars. What were your thoughts on the race that we saw?
I thought it was great. I mean, that first stage is really, kind of the William Byron, Ty Gibbs show there for the first stage. But at the start of the second stage, it was kind of all over the place. You got Bell that came in. It was between Bell, Byron, and then Brad Keselowski kind of came out of nowhere there towards the end of that second stage. I mean, he passed probably 5 or 6 cars there in 12 laps to get to that second place spot. And he was running down Christopher Bell there for that second stage. Just didn't make it there in time. But I thought it was great racing. I mean, William Byron had that pass in the grass, or he passed them both in the grass. He drove to the turf. I don't know what was going on there. Everybody kind of lost their minds in the stands when we did that, because no one saw it coming. But I thought the racing was fantastic, which it has been at Charlotte in the past. For all the next gen races on the oval, they've all been good. So we knew it was going to be that kind of race, and it was shaping up to be like that. The rest of it.
I mean, by the way, I consider Bell's the first pass of the grass, because Dale Earnhardt didn't pass anybody; he just held the lead, right? But it's been fun to talk about over the years. So for me, I was keeping an eye on the 5-car, right? As I think we all were. Justin Allgaier got basically no time in the car. He's never raced it before, never run a Cup Series car before.
Got thrown in,
tossed to the wolves, and he was a rocket ship. That car was, I mean, he was 13th when it started raining, but he had run higher than that. He was a lap down, got trapped a lap down for a while, made it up, got through. It was like you're watching it going, I want Justin to stay in the car, but if Kyle gets in that thing, I want to see him go from back to front. Then it rains. Just as basically Kyle was getting there, it rains. And now we're all waiting, and we're told that the driver switch was made under caution. Now, I don't know how that happens. That's a weird quirk in NASCAR's rule book. Because, I mean, there was never an actual driver change, but okay. So now Kyle's going to start 13th. Except that, of course, that never happened because the race never got restarted. So Christopher Bell wins. Now, again, you were there. I want your perspective. It was obvious to me, or it felt like the entire grandstand erupted in boos for a driver that it wasn't the driver. They were booing the decision to stop the race. But I felt so bad for Chris Bell because,
it was such a crazy, just whatever it was, 2 hours. The rain came. They brought them all down pit road. They sent us all to underneath the seating area because of the lightning. And it was a pretty strong storm for probably 30 minutes. It stormed pretty heavy. Then we all went back out and they started the jet dryers up, and they did maybe an hour and a half of track drying. You could see some of the gray starting to poke out from underneath. That was the thing that was weird about it, is it looked like it was drying. And then just out of the blue, they shut all the jet dryers down and said that the race was over. So
time to go home, folks. Sorry, we tried.
Yeah, I'm not really. Everybody was kind of in shock because it didn't make any sense, because there was no rain, no more rain. The track was turning back to its normal color, so we could tell it was drying, especially in the corners. They only made a couple passes in the corners and they were already starting to dry up. And then that was it. Lenny Baticki comes on the audio and says, "Well, race is over."
Yeah.
So we were just kind of like, why?
Well,
was the
we're all
thing.
still wondering why NASCAR blamed high humidity. I'm not buying that. I've promoted racetracks. I know. It's always humid after it rains. The track dries. It's fine.
Yeah.
Not buying that. My problem with this is that there was a day and age where it was a priority for NASCAR to finish races. So if we had to come back on Monday to do that, we would. And it
was a holiday.
Well, now then we've always had a rule about, at a certain point it's an official race, and we need that rule. And I have no problem with that rule. But last year in 23, the Xfinity race went on forever. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a crown jewel. You've got the Larson thing going on. You've got a full crowd. They said it was sold out. The crowd is hung with you. You've got so we run till 3 a.m. Okay, fine. But even if they didn't want to do that, I feel like if Bill France Sr. is in charge and you got Bruton and Humpy at Charlotte, I feel like we come back Monday and finish it at 10 a.m. or whatever. We're done by lunchtime and everybody goes home and everybody's happy. And I feel like they started a race that they pretty much knew wasn't going to finish. And that's my problem, is I feel like the fans got robbed of the last part of that race. And I feel like now people are saying, well, this is an illegitimate win. No, it's not. Christopher Bell was leading when it rained. They stopped the race. It's a legal race by the rule book. I would rather they have called it while it was storming and just said, we don't have a clear window. We can't, whatever. Right.
Yeah. That would have taken the hurt way more out of what happened. I mean, the fact that they let us all go back in there, they started drying the track for an hour and a half, looked like it was drying. Everybody's like, we're going back racing. And then just out of the blue, they're like, shut it down. I mean, it was just, it was even like the jet dryers were taken off guard there, because they were like, it was like, why? We're making progress. Like, I don't understand what's happening.
I just don't get it. That to me was a bad decision. It just was.
And there were several pictures taken for like 2.5, 3 hours after they made the call, and the track even looked drier than it did. So it was drying, like naturally drying. So it even added to the fire on the social media websites. They're like, hey, I mean, the track's almost dry. Yeah. So
to me, somebody just wanted to go to bed. Whether it was NASCAR or whether it was Fox or whether it was Fox, Charlotte, frankly.
That's the consensus, that a lot of people think it was a TV decision, not a NASCAR
that just bothers me, because that didn't feel like a triple crown day at all, and it didn't feel like NASCAR took the 600 seriously enough. If that's your longest race, you got a sold out crowd, and it's a federal holiday the next day, and it's in the drivers' teams, they're all home. Okay, bring them back the next morning, finish the race properly on a beautiful Sunday, Monday, and send everybody home, and everybody's happy. And I don't feel like that effort was made. I don't think the fans were prioritized, and that's my issue with it. But congrats to Chris Bell, because he earned it. He was the legitimate leader. Okay, love to debate that more, but we got some news, lots of it. Stuart Haas Racing leaving the sport. After 2024, I think we all thought they were probably leaving Cup, but they would probably keep the Xfinity Series. They announced, there was a joint statement from Tony and Gene basically says our business perspectives have changed, lives have changed, and you got to be full-time present, all of that sort of thing. And they haven't been, right? They have Tony's into the drag racing now, and he's married, and Gene has got the F1 team. So after 15 years, Kevin Harvick said it best on his podcast, it's hard to believe that in basically like 6 months, we go from forever to forward to for sale. And so now 4 charters and 6 drivers in play. So first of all, we also got the news the next day that Front Row Motorsports expanding to 3 teams. Not a surprise. We thought all along they were going to get a charter, right? Rumors maybe Josh Berry and Noah Gregson go from Stuart Haas to Front Row Motorsports. The 34 is going to be vacant. You bring in one of the teams from SHR, and there you go. Chase Briscoe to the 21 to replace Harrison Burton, perhaps. That's the rumor. And out of all of that, nothing about Ryan Preece's future. No rumors, nothing. I feel like he's going to be the one sort of left out here and have to sort of fend for himself. But now that we've gotten through all of that, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's huge news, right? It's been talked about for the past, 2-3 months now, with serious talks, knowing that, maybe they were going to get rid of 2 charters. There were talks of people like, oh, they're going to disband completely. And those were the ones that people thought were a little less likely. But for me, it's sad to see seeing a big team like that kind of bounce out. Championship winning team kind of shutting the doors is not a good thing. I guess they felt like at this time that there was nothing really in it for them anymore. So I hate that for all the team members and everybody that now have jobs to find in the sport. But in terms of the drivers, you got Cole Custer, who's doing really good. I mean, he's a former Cup driver, but went back to Xfinity and he's doing really well. Won a championship now. So he's ready to go back to Cup. But Riley Herbst has also picked up his pace and is running a lot better. So we got 6 guys that are probably at least 5 that are Cup eligible, Cup ready, but we don't have that many seats.
At least not now.
So
we'll see. Now. We got 4 charters available. So I know Front Row's obviously buying the one. Well, so we believe anyway.
I think Barry goes with that one, the one that that Front Row end up purchasing, and they'll put Gregson in the 34.
I think in one way or the other.
Is my guess. Yeah. And I feel bad for Ryan Preece because I think this is going to be a situation where Ryan Preece is going to be that, like you said, that last man out. It's kind of been that way his time at Stewart Haas Racing. It kind of seems like he's the odd man out.
Yeah.
For pretty much everything that they've done there. So, they had that little social media thing where they had that driver group that they started. And then Ryan Preece wasn't involved with them, with the other drivers in this group text chat or something. So it seems like Ryan's just kind of been out of play.
Yeah.
So
well,
I hate it for him. I think he's a really good driver. I think he does have a place. I'm just not sure who it's going to be.
Interesting to see how it all falls. And the reason we are speculating on the charters is because right now, obviously, there's no charters to buy until they ratify the new deal, which we are told may be closer than it was even just a couple weeks ago. So we'll see where all of that goes. And unfortunately, we're going to save the rest of the news for our next show because we're just about out of time. So Tyler, thanks for being here as always. And we want to thank our sponsors, TrackTune and UltimateQM.com. Stay tuned for more shows on PowerTube TV and Join us at steeringwheelnation.com for more great content and on the social media platforms at The Wheel Nation. For Tyler Dayton, I'm Tom Baker. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time on The Tom Baker Show.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.